What's up everyone? It's Steven, back with another video from DareToCapture. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the equipment that you need as a beginner. Whether you're taking photos or making videos, the equipment I'm going to tell you about in this video are going to be things that you absolutely need as a beginner when you're picking up a camera. Now obviously the more experience you have with a camera, the more equipment you're probably going to recognize that you need. But when you're just beginning, there's going to be a few essentials that you absolutely have to have no matter what. But it's important to remember that as a beginner, you don't want to overwhelm yourself with getting too much equipment. So keeping things to a minimum is probably going to help you in the long run until you have a lot more experience with what you're doing with a camera. Now, even though the things I'm going to tell you about are going to be essentials when it comes to using a camera, a lot of it is going to come down to personal preference. Now, there's going to be some pieces of equipment that have a ton of options of what you can get, but the final decision is going to be up to you. Because there are so many different types of camera equipment out there, you need to make sure you're picking the right thing for you and what you're trying to capture with that camera. And because of that, you might have to experiment with a few different pieces of equipment before you fall on one that you absolutely love and decide to stick with in the long run. So on that note, let's dive in. So obviously the first piece of equipment that you're gonna need as a beginner is a camera. Without a camera, you can't take pictures, you can't make videos, you can't do anything that you want to do if you want to have experience with a camera. Having a camera is the most basic piece of equipment that anyone that wants to get into photography or videography needs. Now the hard part about a camera is picking which one is right for you. There are so many different brands or so many different types of cameras that you can choose from. It's going to be hard to fall on one that is actually right for you. And with the way camera technology is nowadays, you're probably going to have multiple options that you can go with as a beginner. Every camera has its positives, every camera has its negatives. So because of that, I can't sit here and tell you exactly what camera you need to get as a beginner. The best advice I can give you is to do a little bit of research. You need to always keep in mind exactly what you're trying to do with your camera so that when you're looking up different cameras, you know exactly what you're looking for out of the camera. My camera of choice right now is the Canon EOS R. It's something that does everything I needed to do. It helps me take pictures, it helps me record all these videos. It's a very good camera and it's one that I feel a lot of beginners could use because there's nothing too difficult about it. So for any beginner out there, if they want to choose this camera, I think it'll be a great choice because there's nothing that's going to be too overwhelming about the camera and it's going to help you get the job done in the end. Now again, this all depends on personal preference. Choosing the Canon EOS R was one that was a good choice for me because I knew exactly what I was going to try and get out of a camera, and this is the type of camera that is going to allow me to continue to execute everything the way I need it to be executed. Now just because I'm using this camera doesn't mean there are other cameras that won't work just as well for me either. Personally, I will probably always go with Canon. There are a ton of different brands out there that can do the same exact job that Canon does. It'll help you deliver the same exact quality. Everything about them are probably going to be relatively equal. But in the end, this is just a personal choice. It's kind of like the people that always choose Apple products over like Android and Google products. So that's what it's going to come down to when it comes to cameras. Now choosing a camera is probably going to be the hardest part when it comes to beginners because there's so many different options out there for you. However, once you're able to choose a camera, everything else I'm about to mention is going to fall into place much easier. So once you're able to choose that right camera for you, you're going to be heading in the right direction. Now that you finally made a choice on what camera you're using, the next thing you need to do is find a lens that'll work for you. Now the type of lens you choose is going to be one that is definitely a personal preference for you. It's all going to depend on exactly what you need to get from your camera. But the good thing now, because you have a specific camera that you have in mind, you're going to be able to find lenses much easier. A lot of the time, lenses are designed for the camera that you have. So for example, the lenses I use are all Canon lenses because of the Canon camera that I have. If I had a Sony camera but I wanted to use a Canon lens, it wouldn't work as well. I'm sure there are adapters out there that could make it work, but Most lenses are designed specifically for the type of camera that you have. And when it comes down to lenses, just like cameras, there are a ton of options out there for you. There's prime lenses that have a fixed focal length. There's zoom lenses where you can change your focal length. You have wide angle lenses, which is exactly what it sounds like. It gives you a wide angle. There's macro lenses that allow you to get super close-ups of whatever subjects you're trying to shoot. There's telephoto lenses that allow you to zoom in on a subject from a great distance. So as you can see, there are a ton of different types of lenses that you can choose from. So because of this, you need to know exactly what you're trying to do with your camera. You're not gonna wanna be somebody that is trying to make videos, but you only have a macro lens. You're not gonna wanna be a landscape photographer, but only have a lens that has a focal length of 35 millimeters. There's a lot of research that needs to be done and thought about before you make a final purchase on a lens, because you don't wanna be stuck with something that isn't gonna get the job done the way you want it to get done. And I'm gonna tell you right now, lenses are not cheap. Lenses are gonna run you up a little bit, but at the same time, when you take care of them, they're gonna give you the end result that you're really looking for. They're gonna give you exactly what you want. Also, if you plan on doing multiple things with your cameras like I do, I would recommend having multiple lenses. So for example, the main lenses I use are a zoom lens that is 16 to 35 millimeters, and I have a prime lens that has a focal length of 50 millimeters. These are the two lenses that I use the most. I'll put those in the description below if you want to check them out. And they definitely get the job done no matter what I'm trying to do. So try not to limit yourself too much on the lenses you can get. If you can afford to get multiple lenses, get multiple lenses. However, be prepared. Once you expand your skill set with the camera, you're gonna wanna start getting more and more lenses so that you can expand that skill set even more. Another piece of equipment that I would always recommend for beginners and even people that have a ton of experience with using a camera is to have a tripod. You need a tripod. A tripod is gonna be one of the most useful pieces of equipment that you ever have. Now for me, a tripod is definitely a necessity. It's something that you should always have with you at all times. Now you may not use a tripod at all times, but it's gonna be a shame when you're out and about and you're using your camera and you realize you need to have a tripod, but you don't have one with you. When it comes to tripods, you don't really understand their significance until you're lacking one in a situation where you absolutely need one. One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to using a camera is not having the image be level. So by that I mean I don't like to see an image that is slightly crooked. Images that are slightly crooked, you can tell they're not meant to be crooked. Now, because using a camera is very artistic, I know there's gonna be moments where you might want the subject to be slightly crooked. You might want your entire image to look like it's slanted and all of that. But when something is very slightly turned, that's something that I notice a lot, but you can tell that it's not intentional. When something like that is unintentional, it really bugs me a lot, but I know if that person just used a tripod, everything would be okay. It would be level, I wouldn't be annoyed with what I'm looking at, and everything would be okay. There's a ton of YouTube videos out there where the image that I see is just slightly crooked, and that's something that really distracts me for the whole video. I don't pay attention to what the person's trying to give me, and in the end, I just lose interest in what's actually trying to go on because I'm distracted from an image that isn't completely level. So lesson here, use a tripod, have a level image, and you'll see me happy. Now when it comes to tripods, they can range from $20 to thousands and thousands of dollars. Now again, for beginners, it's probably gonna come down to your immediate financial situation, but I would not cheap out on a tripod. The super cheap tripods, yes, they get basic stuff done, but in the end, they're not gonna be the best option that you could have. Personally, I would spend a little more money on a tripod. That way I know the tripod I'm getting is gonna be reliable at all times, and you're not gonna have to struggle with going back to the store and trying to get multiple tripods that are gonna break or are only gonna be useful for a few times of using anyway. Another piece of equipment that beginners absolutely need, in my opinion, is some sort of external lighting. You're not always gonna have the benefit of using natural light for all the shots that you're trying to get, whether you're using your camera for photography or videos. Having some sort of external lighting fixture is gonna allow you to always get the best lighting possible. Now when it comes to taking photos and making videos, lighting is gonna be a huge part of that. When you have good lighting, that's one less thing to worry about because you know the viewers are going to be able to see you clearly, they're going to be able to see your subjects clearly, and when that happens, they're not going to be distracted by darkness or a silhouette of something when that's not the intention of your picture or your video. Now, like tripods, lighting fixtures, they can range from very cheap to extremely expensive, so it all depends on what you need right now to get the best possible lighting that you can. Another cool thing about some external lighting fixtures that you can get, they have different temperatures, so you can turn them all the way down, you can turn them all the way up. There's different ones that can even allow you to change the colors of that actual light. This is gonna allow you to change the mood of the setting you're trying to set, and that's only gonna help you expand your skill set with the camera. Now, if you wanna see the types of external lighting that I use, then I will put that in the description below as well. So you have all of this equipment now, and you're probably wondering how you're gonna be able to carry this around if you wanna go out and about in the world and use your camera. This is where a camera bag comes in. So beginners need to look into having some sort of camera bag. A camera bag is perfect because it allows you to travel with your equipment without having to expose it to any of the elements. You won't have to be carrying it around in your hands everywhere and have the possibility of dropping it and breaking it and having to go buy a new piece of equipment. And let's be honest, most of us aren't the most graceful people out there, so having a camera bag is probably the best option for you anyway. And if you're somebody that's already started looking at all of this camera equipment, then you know that it's definitely not cheap. So being able to keep all of this equipment safe for as long as possible is going to be the most ideal. Now, there are a ton of different camera bags out there. If you're a true beginner when it comes to using a camera, you're probably not going to need a massive camera bag. You're not going to have that much equipment to begin with, so having a smaller camera bag is probably going to be ideal for you. So for example, here is what my camera bag looks like. It's not big, it carries around a few pieces of equipment that I need, and that's all I really need it for. I don't need to carry around a ton of equipment because most of what I'm doing outside isn't requiring me to carry a ton of equipment at once. Plus, I'm somebody that likes to travel light anyway and make the most of the equipment that I actually have. So think of a camera bag as a backpack that keeps all your stuff safe while you're out and about in the world trying to capture beautiful moments. Now, the last bit of equipment that I believe a beginner is definitely going to need is some sort of editing software. Whether you're taking pictures, whether you're making videos, you're going to need some sort of editing software so that you can have the best possible photos or the best possible videos you can. Nowadays, cameras are great. They can do almost anything we want them to do. However, editing software is only going to make what you capture with your camera that much better. Some of the pictures I have wouldn't look anywhere near as good as they do without editing software. All of these videos, all the DareToCapture videos would not be to the level they're at without some sort of editing software. Now, this is another thing that can come down to personal preference and what you need out of your editing software, because there are many different types of editing softwares out there. For example, I use Adobe Lightroom for editing my photos, and I use Final Cut Pro to edit all of my videos. These are just two pieces of software where I did my research on them, and because of what they offered and what I feel like I needed, I chose them over everything else that I could have chose from. This doesn't mean that other editing softwares aren't going to be great for you. That's why it comes down to a personal choice and a little bit of research in the end. All right, so that's all the equipment that I recommend for beginners that are trying to get into photography or making videos. Now, a lot of this equipment can be used for either or, so always keep that in mind when you're looking at this equipment. If you can use it for making videos and taking pictures, you're killing two birds with one stone. And that's only gonna allow you to expand your skill set with the camera. Now, keep in mind that if you're trying to get into using a camera, it's not gonna be cheap. The equipment isn't gonna be cheap. Now, I'm sure if you do a little bit of searching, you're gonna be able to find super expensive pieces of equipment much cheaper. And because you're probably gonna be spending a little bit of money on all of this camera equipment, be sure to use it. Don't just let it sit in the corner of your room and get a little dusty. You want to take advantage of that money that you spent. And when you actually expand your skill set with a camera, you're not going to want to stop using it. So use it as often as you can and capture great things. If you feel like there's any pieces of equipment that I left out or forgot to mention in this video, be sure to leave a comment below. If you feel like this was a very informative video for you and it's something that you definitely benefited from, hit that like button. And since you'll already be clicking the like button, you might as well hit that subscribe button as well. That's only going to help both of us in the end. So on that note, I'm Steven. Catch you in the next one. Peace.